All right, y'all ready?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, good people at Launcharts Media. We just want to use our platform to speak on a big topic in the world and in our communities, whether it be the music community, with hip hop community, black community. At this point in time, our condolences, rest in peace, go out to the passing of Takeoff, member of the Migos, and it brings about a good talking point that we just want to jump on and have a conversation about. But yeah, first and foremost, we want to just say rest in peace. So I'm joined by Vera and Darnell, and we are just going to kind of shoot on a few different topics. First, we could just go off the shock of an untimely passing, because it happens a lot. But I could say for this one, me being of a certain age, mid-30s, I'm familiar with Migos music, and it kind of rocked me. How did you feel about it, Vera?
Honestly, it was a shock, but you just have to realize once you get to a certain amount of fame and fortune, you have to move different. You just have to be different and not think that that's always a bad thing. It's actually a very smart move to move differently once you are a different person.
That's true, Darnell. Just the overall, just the general.
I think everybody's kind of shocked, but unfortunately, I saw it. You're shocked because someone passed, but I'm not shocked another rapper got killed.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's something, that's profound to say, because I think like in any other genre of music, when a musician gets killed, not just when a musician dies, when a musician
Murdered.
gets killed, it's a time to pause and say, what's going on here? And for us to be so desensitized, that the shock is even lessened across the tape, like the shock isn't even there. It just kind of drives a reason to have a conversation in the direction that we're going to kind of touch on this real quick podcast. But before we get to that big topic, let's take this time to reflect on the reason that we know about Takeoff, and that's Migos, and your contribution. Migos' contribution to hip hop in your perspective. So I'll answer last. We'll go back down. Darnell, what's your perspective of Migos' contribution?
Well, yeah, I'm of a certain age too, and I'm a boom bap guy, boom bap guy. But I definitely recognize that we were talking about it the other day that the ad libbing, the rhyme scheme, everything that they brought to the table, they completely changed hip hop, and I'll argue that down all day long. All these she and woo and all that stuff that Cash was adding on their stuff, Migos was doing that stuff, and that's my feeling about them.
I agree. They were a little different. I'm from the younger generation. So I was definitely around when they first came out, and I was like, wow, who are these group of people? At first I thought it was all one person, honestly. And then it took a while to say Migos are 3 people. So that was a shocker right there. And I was like, wow, all these 3 individuals so talented, you didn't even know that they were separate.
Right.
So I found that very different.
I think that played into the fact that they had such a chemistry that you didn't know they were separate. I'm a hip hop head, but I'm also, a product of that like 90s hip hop where you had to be real lyrical. So I hold everything to a high standard, kicking them lyrics, then you in. And if not, you got to convince me. Yeah, I know I'd have a good time listening to good, just nice beats too. But my real true, judgment is if you can really, really say something and be stylized about it. Migos won me over time. I remember I was in Atlanta, and then even like one of their earlier songs, I forget, it's like is it because I'm handsome?
Handsome and wealthy?
Yeah, handsome with I was in the club, and they had the video playing on the on like the little projector, and I was just kind of watching this after Versace, and then I'm like, they actually doing some artistry with what they're doing. You know what I mean? Even the video was like, entertaining and not just flashing and stuff like that.
Right.
And then over time, and then by the time the Bad and Bougie era hit, I'm not a super Migos fan, but I was a Migos fan, and I would back them and say, no, they're real artists.
No, they are. They are.
Then I saw them do like freestyles where I saw how they play off of each other. I'm like, they legit. By the point that they, like about a year or two ago, did this little 2-step at the BET Awards, together with DJ Mustard, I was like, give them their flowers. They're legends. You know what I mean?
You got a dime in the game. You got
a 10 years in the game. You must be doing something right. Yeah. So it's a little heartbreaking that we won't see that in full force ever again. So being at Launcharts Media and all of our conjoined brands, and we are a younger demographic of media, I think it's important for us to kind of get together and touch on these topics. Stemming from this, here's a young man who's 28 years old. Here's a young man who is, by all intents and purposes, wealthy. But here's a young man who still embodies a street aesthetic, a street, culture, and even the ways in this altercation took place is something as throwback to a street culture as shooting dice. And getting like in an argument and somebody having tempers flared. So all of that is perpetuated through the culture, through the music. The question here is the state of, for the state of hip hop, is the music, is the culture, is it contributing to violence and negativity in our community? Is it simply isolated altercation? Or does the fact that even in Migos lyrics, you can find some hyper violent or hyper aggressive or, just perpetuating negativity in terms of doing harm unto one another? I just want to hear people's takes on that. Is the music fueling this rash of murders on rappers? Vera, go ahead.
I feel it is. I feel it has to do with the audiences. A lot of folks feel as if it's more entertaining to speak about the violence and the money and the flashing and this and that versus who really wants to read a book, get educated. That's not as entertaining as let's just go shoot up some folks and take other people's women's and yada yada yada. So it's more entertaining and fun to listen to versus real stuff and serious stuff that you have to actually think about and use your brain for. It's easier to be entertained than to actually think.
That's a good point. So it does fuel what's happening, but it's for the purpose. It's the reason why it's fueling it is because this is what people want in terms of entertainment. Darnell, you want to elaborate on that, or you want to just state broadly, is our rap music, our hip hop culture fueling the negativity, the violence that we're witnessing?
Like we talked about earlier, the easy answer and the short answer for me is hell yes. However, like we talked about earlier as well, like we always speak about, it's also being pushed by somebody. And I think that we do have artists out here that are pushing these sentiments, but the machine is not pushing them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think, but also, like you said, like we're consuming as consumers what we want. So if we're consuming sex and violence, that's what we do. It's not just our music. Mm-hmm. It's our movies. We choose violence all the time. We choose sex all the time. And we're not choosing books. We're not choosing knowledge. We're not choosing that stuff as a whole. So, it's a double-edged sword. All you can do is affect your circle and what you're doing and what you're consuming. I
wanna just add to points of that because we were talking before we got on camera, and I said the short answer is yes. It's more delicate than that though, mm-hmm. because of the community that it impacts the hardest, and it's our Black young African American community, whatever you want to classify it as, it's young Black people. Mm-hmm. Whenever you have a balance, you know what I'm saying? If somebody's going to see the Terminator 20 times and they don't get to go see Forrest Gump, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then in the movie studio is just saying no, more Terminators, more Doom, you know what I'm saying? More hyperactive, violent movies. And less just, subtle stories or warm-hearted mm-hmm. stories. If you're being programmed, then eventually you're going to be of the programming. The fact that the hip-hop music has lost its balance, whatever it may be, the general public likes to think it's corny to not be engulfed in what I determine is an outlaw behavior. Mm-hmm. Because they make the word thug even derogatory. Oh, towards us. But if you go to another community, they just use the term outlaw and they raise a beer to it, and they and they fly a flag and they say, yeah, just outlaw culture.
Well, I mean, we love to watch the mafia movies and all the Italians and all that, but no one's looking at Italians as if they're all mafia and they're all doing these crazy things.
Exactly.
Boys in the Hood comes out now, all of us is thugs. You know what I mean?
Even still, and even in the defense of the Italian community, they have defense groups who say diversify us.
Yeah, and not to say that.
Yeah. But I'm saying, they do have defense groups that say diversify us, show us in other lights. Mm-hmm. When it comes to hip hop music, we lost control of that. You just mentioned that. All of these young boys, they want a record deal, and they have to talk about a certain thing in order to get the gleaming eye of a corporate, executive.
Right.
And if they do try to talk about something a little bit more uplifting, they might not get the phone call. They might not get the deal. They're being pushed in a certain way, and then they're leading the audience in a certain way.
Right.
Let me tell you this. No young black man wants to be hard-edged, aggressive all the time. Society is telling him to act this way, to the point that he thinks he has to put this face on even for his woman, for his friends, for his people in his surrounding. I want to stay as far away from an altercation as possible with what happened. But I can bet that this man's pride was hurt, but it wasn't hurt to the fact that he really, really wanted to just massacre people, because the consequences of killing people. It was more of an ego perpetuated that he must.
The lack of emotional intelligence, man. The lack of knowing how to deal with your emotions in any moment.
Right.
Literally.
So yeah, and we'll wrap it up. Just we want to touch base with this, and anybody who wants to, give your insight and your comments, leave comments wherever we post this. But I'll just say this: the short answer is yes, that the state of hip hop is fueling a lot of the behavior, because the lifestyle is being shown to a lot of people who need guidance. And a lot of people, the education system has failed us. We come from a lot of, instances where the old school parenting isn't there. So what's raising us? Our cultural outlets is raising us. And we don't have that balance. All we doing is showing Terminator in theaters. All we doing is showing Terminator. All we showing is the glitz and glamours of criminal, and we need that back. I grew up where I like mafioso rap. That's a genre. That's a subgenre that don't exist anymore. I like mafioso rap, but the whole time that they were playing that, like Nas did a mafioso rap album, but he also did a track called Black Girl Lost. If our artists aren't doing the balance, then the listeners aren't getting the balance. And I'm not saying that this person, whoever contributed to this.
Yeah, we don't know what happened. We don't know what happened.
I'm not saying this person is a victim of it, but out of I think a news outlet put out like 20 rappers have died in 20 prominent rappers have died in the last 3 or 4 years. Out of that list, that's crazy. A lot of the guys out here running and gunning are totally influenced by the music. They totally think that what's being preached in melody is the way to go. And it's on us to create the balance. We can have sexy, somewhat violent action.
Education.
And we also gotta educate.
There's room for all of it. You just got,
the artistry has to be
if you turn on the faucet and it's too hot, you need to turn that other handle up till you get to a nice.
But I think Veer just said something really important. I was like, it's like you can say, a lot of people can say certain things that's violent, but if the artistry is there, if you a guy like R.J. Payne, he says a lot of street stuff, but the artistry is there, and you can tell.
That's how Migos won me over. Yes, I hear the artistry.
The artistry is there,
and of course they're maturing men. So like we come as a young man, my son is in the Power Rangers, man. Like he loves fighting stuff. We come out of that into the Nerf gun era. We come out of the Nerf gun era, and unfortunately, a lot of us don't have fathers in the house. So we think out here, jumping young boys or fighting young boys, we think it's freeze tag. We think it's laser tag. You know what I'm saying? You come out of the Nerf gun era, you go into Grand Theft Auto era.
Man.
And nobody's helping to kind of steer
Call of Duty
psyche.
Now all these first-person shooters.
So you come out of all these things that were put in front of you just to keep you, occupied. But that's building your psyche. So you come out of that, and of course, most teenagers get into music. What music is being fed to you is nothing but an overflow of, what might give you entertainment value, but isn't feasible for society. Society is shared space. And if you're not pairing that with education, as Vera put it, you can go in the wrong direction. And I guess the biggest takeaways. You take away,
Honestly, we just have to take a look at what we're doing wrong and recognize what's not right, and then go from there to do right. So we just have to recognize that this is wrong. It is not right at all.
Takeaway for me as a whole, as a community, we need to be more accountable for ourselves and our own actions.
Yeah, right. Takeaway for me is what I'm saying is if you're going to put out one side of life, to show the opposite side of the spectrum to create a balance. If you're going to tell hyperactive spots, life is not all hyperactivity. Show regular activity. Show people that there is a balance to life. And maybe we don't push in this just hell-bent kind of direction we're going in, you know? So, yeah, again, we just wanted to jump on podcast about that real quick. Rest in peace to Takeoff. See you next time.